Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. $360,000 apiece. That's what's on the table for every African American descendant of slavery who lives in the state of California. That's what a reparations task force has as an option when officials make their final report this summer. We will discuss and 100 years after the Equal Rights Amendment was first drafted in Congress, there's a renewed push led by Rep. Ayanna Presley of Massachusetts to finally get it passed and signed into law. What happened? I forgot all about this, the Equal Rights Amendment. 100 years, and they still haven't gotten that signed into law. Tells you how little they value women, right? We'll discuss that. And Minnesota's House of Representatives passed a bill last month that would create an Office of Missing and Murdered African American Women to address disparities in missing person cases. If the bill makes it through the Senate and is signed by the governor, it would create the first office of its kind focused on Black women in the nation. We will discuss that with the man who likes to shut it all down, the one and only Barrington Salmon. Good morning, Barrington, wherever you may be. You on mute. We
Oh,
don't like you on mute.
hello. Can you hear
Hello. I hear you. You remind me of can you hear me now? That movie with Denzel Washington. Remember that movie Out
me?
of Time?
Oh
My
yeah, yeah,
girl
yeah.
was in there, Sanaa Lathan. She
That
was a
one. That,
maniac in that movie.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I remember that. I remember.
You better remember that. Anything
Yeah,
Sanaa is in, you gotta remember.
yeah. Oh
That's one
yeah.
of my
Okay.
homegirls, one of my baby mamas.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But Barrington, we're going to start with the most popular state in the country. They're attempting to carve a pathway to reparations through the nine-member group with a comprehensive set of recommendations expected to be released by July 1st. The task force is strongly considering a proposal on the table right now that would pay $360,000 to each African American who lives in the state and is a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade. And here's how they arrived at that amount. They said the state should pay, they determined that the state should pay out $640 billion for reparations and divide it equally among the 1.8 million Black California residents who have ancestors that were enslaved in America. It is comprehensive. It is 360,000. Some, many will say it's nothing to sneeze at. But here's the thing, too, Barrington, to think about, and I want you to consider as you, I know you're about to unleash, but consider this: California did not have a law that allowed. No, let me rephrase it. They did not allow slavery in California.
But here's the thing, Stace. You don't have to. You don't have to have slavery enshrined in law to enslave and to
What's with the top hat right there? Come on, we could do better. Do better. Go ahead.
well, it depends on who is he representing.
The reparations now,
Yeah, but
2023.
he might be
But
he might
he's kind of an older guy too, so I got to give him a pass.
be representing some figure from California's past.
Yeah.
The thing for me is that I'm feeling very Scrooges this morning. I'm curious how they arrived at that amount.
Hmm.
Um, and I do remember doing the story a couple of years ago, and there was a lot of debate about whether or not um, Black people who have been in the country, in the state, who are from other places, but whose parents, whose ancestors were also enslaved, they're not included. But my argument is that if you live in a racist system,
Hmm.
if your parents have lived in a racist system, there are barriers to your access to education, access to certain types of jobs,
Yep.
and you can talk about the redlining, you can talk about all the other things that we're dealing with on a regular basis. The fact I read a story yesterday that said that the wealth gap between blacks and whites is the largest ever in the history of this country.
Hmm.
So it,
Well, the
it,
bottom line.
it just seems like it's a band-aid for a
Mhm.
gunshot wound.
Yeah, and the bottom line is that slavery and the effects of slavery is a pandemic, right? I think it's a pandemic that has swept this country affected every black person, whether they were, there's this whole idea of these, the black folks who were descendants of slavery, and then there's the other type of black folk, I guess, who came from elsewhere or whatever. But it affected everybody. It's a disease that's still from, it went from the 40 acres and the mule promise to the fact that they gave the reparation to the slave owners and not the slaves,
Yeah.
to Jim Crow and Reconstruction, all that stuff, the
Yeah.
Civil. And look, on Sunday we still see them marching and having a big ceremony, 58th
Oh,
anniversary
yeah.
Sunday,
Selma.
and
Yeah.
then Pettus Bridge. Um, it's in the education system, it's in the healthcare system. We talk about, even the wealthy and the famous. Serena Williams' story is still resonating of how they treated her when she was having her baby
Yeah.
just recently. I mean, this is a Hall of Fame superstar who had the same issue as, uh, Monique Smith,
Yeah.
right? If she went in there, no name, nobody knew her, had the same issue. So this permeates, America. Nobody, I started with you on the fact that California did not legalize slavery. However, same difference.
Yeah. Because and it, we say it ad nauseum. This is a country that is with its roots in genocide and enslavement,
Hmm.
and it's you can applaud this reparations commission for the work they've done, but we're still what just I interviewed a police chief some I think last year, and he was saying that if you are in a system that is shitty,
Hmm.
you can move the shit around and it's still shit. So reform.
Behave.
No. Okay, it's still feces then. So, but he was, and this is someone who is not not generally, he's not profane at all,
Hmm.
but he's so tired of the system of so-called criminal justice that the people just want to kind of um, make changes on the margins. This to me feels like making changes at the margins because you're not dealing with the larger institutional issues. You're not talking about reform. Not well. I don't think the system can be reformed. You're not talking about changing the system because at the end of the day, the $360,000 that people get, if they go if they're selling their house, is going to still be appraised for less than a white person
Yeah.
owns it. They're not going to be
Yep.
able to live in certain communities because they're going to be redlined out. If they go to the bank for a loan, they're going to be paying higher interest rates than white people. So
It's
what?
yep. It's systemic. This is what we mean when we say systemic.
Yeah.
Now, Barrington, I have to behave. I see the beautiful Shanae Brown watching, so
Oh, okay.
I gotta tamper it down. I can't be calling. You shouldn't be telling me to say that, Shania Lathan is my baby mama. You should not be trying to put that stuff in my head like that. My wife is not going to go for it. Dr. Nicole says we know this would not fix the entire problem, and there would still be more work to be done. But Band-Aid or not, I will take it and do good with it. And the thing is, the $360,000. It's not a lot of money, but it's not a little bit of money either.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
but it's not what San Francisco is trying to do. The state of California is doing a little bit less than what the city of San Francisco would like to do. The last thing on the table in San Francisco, we'll hear more about that this summer as well. They're looking at a lump sum payment of $5 million each,
to each
which
black person.
dwarfs each descendant of African slavery.
Yeah. Okay.
So
But we had, I think we talked about this a week or 2 weeks ago. Black people, Africans, people of African descent in this country, you are not going to get the full benefit of your money if you're going to take it and put it in Wells Fargo or
right,
Bank of
right.
America.
Well, part of San Francisco's, and I'm glad you brought that up because, and I encourage everyone to go look at what San Francisco is what their commission would like to do. Part of their thing is it has to be that the city also institute these black banks, and they handle the money. They also have investors, not investors, but what do you call them? Advisors,
Yeah.
financial advisors for every person, free, right? Financial education also to go along with these payments. So I think it has to be a whole lot because we were deprived of so much. How many African American households, right, growing up, how many parents were able to, or even in any way, shape, or form, discuss financial education with their children, discuss investing, discuss Wall Street? Not many,
Not many.
not many.
Yeah. Yeah.
And why was that?
Well, I mean, a part of it has to do with tradition, because if you're in a family, well, first of all, you have to have the wealth to be talking about invested in the stock market, or putting your money in certain places to for interest to compound for you to
Mhm.
make more money. And in a lot of cases, not every case, but in most cases, folks are just trying to make it.
Trying to make it.
They didn't have that type of disposable income that they would have had to invest and that type of thing. So it's a lot of there are a lot of threads that are connected, that folks keep on trying to act as if what happened in 1865 or 1876 is so remote, so far away, but it's not, because
Well,
we
the effects are still here.
effects are still here, and the systems that they put in place are still here. But the thing that I'm thinking about, even as we're talking about this, we are watching this country revert back to the 40s, 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Oh, no question about it. And that's the goal of this, as you would as you call it, the former Republican Party, or what used to be the Republican Party.
Yeah,
And make no mistake, there are some Democrats who want to see it go
yeah,
back to the
yeah,
30s and
yeah,
40s.
yeah. Because the reality for me is that if America writ large, if the majority of the people in this country were against what the Republicans were doing,
It wouldn't happen.
it wouldn't happen.
Right. Look, even the police assaults and murders of black people, unarmed black people. This goes back to, they're already there. They're already in the 30s and 40s,
Yeah,
because that's where it all stems from, right?
yeah, yeah.
It has not changed. This is why we say now, and you've been saying it longer than I, that you cannot reform that.
You can't
You
reform.
have to change that whole system.
Yeah, and I mean, I listened to the mayor of, oh God, some St. Louis City yesterday.
Mhm.
The state is trying to take over the police department.
Oh gosh, they're doing that in Atlanta, and we had the big program where we had the mayor of Jackson, Mississippi, on this
Yeah,
program just a couple of weeks
yeah,
ago.
yeah. So there are attempts all over the place to wrest control of government from Democratic mayors.
Mhm.
Um, white voter suppression is on the march. I think they last year or the year before, they introduced like 414 voter suppression bills.
Yep.
Most of them didn't pass, but a significant number did in at least, I think, almost 2 dozen states. And gerrymandering and redistricting, and the court, Supreme Court,
Mhm.
some state courts,
Mhm.
circuit courts that don't give a damn.
Yeah.
That are like, they let them do what they want. We're washing our hands of that.
Yeah, we watch as Democrats, and others celebrate these small base hits and doubles and triples. When the Republicans, when they come to the plate, they swinging for the grand slam all the time. Nicole McDaniel says, on the whole, Dr. Nicole says, on the whole, we stay stuck on the first and second level of the Maslow pyramid. We don't have the resources or luxury to discuss wealth building and financial planning. David says, some feelings get hurt and outraged when you discuss the marrow of American history being our black skin and their conscience. And Power 96, yep, says, if we ever receive reparations, financial literacy must be taught to all our people. And again, I'll leave it with David. We've been here before. He says 1870 to 1900. And so, just to bring it home again, cities like Evanston, Illinois, Providence, Rhode Island, they have established reparations for slavery and racial terror. Now, the cities like San Francisco, and of course, as we discussed now, the state of California, in their 500-page preliminary report, it's the California Task Force. They outline the wrongs, and they have one of the options on the table is $360,000 per black person that lives in the state of California. Now, I used to live in California. I don't know if that would count though. I lived there. I did 7 years in that state. 7.
You should check.
I wasn't born there. I'm a
If
proud,
you live there, you might.
proud New Yorker.
It,
Even if it means foregoing the $360,000, I'm keeping my New York citizenship.
uh,
Equal rights, Barrington. This came as a bit of a surprise to me because I was not aware of all of that's in this. But the Equal Rights Amendment was first drafted and introduced in Congress in 1923. And now, a century later, a bipartisan group of lawmakers are working to, at last, enshrine its guarantees of gender equality in the Constitution. Um, Ayanna Presley, the representative out of Massachusetts, says, I'm dismayed that in 2023, we still have to fight to be seen as full citizens, given the contributions of women as defenders of our democracy and all the contributions that we make to civic life, to culture, to our economy. So what's been going on here? So Congress did pass the Equal Rights Amendment in 72, right?
yeah,
It had members support from members of both parties. But the problem,
the states
you
had
know,
to ratify it.
right,
The states had
right.
to ratify it. I think they're stuck at 37.
Yes, and this was a Shirley Chisholm bill
Yeah, but Phyllis
in
Schlafly,
72. That was. Go
Phyllis
ahead.
Schlafly, what I think that's her name. She was the figurehead and the head cook and bottle washer for resistance to this, and she worked hard, she worked tirelessly, going around the country opposing this. And
Hmm.
um, it's always interesting to me because there is this very conservative, regressive underbelly in this country that they may, well, before 2016, whatever biases and prejudices they had to stay underground. Now,
Hmm.
certain people, Orange Jesus has made people feel that, given people permission to air their grievances and to openly oppose these things. That you can say that it's you can applaud the effort,
Hmm.
but I'm always looking at results,
Right.
because even if they do ratify it, putting it on a piece of paper ain't going to change nothing. It's not going to change people's hearts. You can't legislate morality or decency or honesty. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and you're right about Phyllis Schlafly. She had the audacity to argue that the Equal Rights Amendment would force women to be treated like men in other ways, such as pushing them into the military draft or whatever. They when they oppose something with no good reason, they come up with something that they think sound good. It only makes them sound uh, more ridiculous. It's like Marjorie Taylor Greene was arguing about the opioid crisis, and she put a foot squarely where it belongs in her mouth when she said that the Biden administration has confiscated the most drugs or whatever. She said opioids or whatever in history or whatever. Well, isn't that a good thing?
That's a good thing. But Stacy, the United States population represents almost 5% of the globe's population. They consume 25% of all the world's drugs. Until you face that fact, until you look at ways. No.
No, I'm laughing because Power 96 keeps doing this to me. He throws something up there that makes me. He says Marjorie Taylor Greene looks like an opioid, but go ahead. It's not. It's always him.
No, so until Americans come to terms with the reasons why so many of its citizens turn to drugs, use
Mhm.
drugs, this will continue. Because when you talk, it's they're talking about bombing Mexico, and I've heard that in the past, and doing things to other countries that produce these drugs. The best way to deal with this is to find programs and projects and all those types of initiatives to help people not get overdosed, not become drug users, and that type of thing. And
Yeah.
and I don't hear that many people talking about that.
No. No, we it's interesting. We're talking about this. We're going to talk in a moment about what Minnesota is doing for black and missing women and black and murdered women, and we talk about this because, and this is it has a lot to do. Look who's leading this, Ayanna Presley, right? Look who led it in 1972, Shirley Chisholm, black people, right? And the thing about I want to say this, and it's off topic, and Greer's probably going to smack me around after the show for bringing it up, but it's all. But the thing about it is, I was thinking about the thing that Anthony Tillman put up yesterday, which Greer knew about this. Yeah, I think she probably mentioned it to me before. I just wasn't paying the attention I should have paid to it with Chris Rock, because we talked about Chris Rock yesterday
Mm.
for obvious reasons. We talked about, and Anthony called me late last night. Man, I had to turn the show on because I wanted to see what y'all was going to say about Chris Rock. But he sent something. He posted something, reposted something on Twitter yesterday. Chris Rock was sitting with these comedians, Jerry Seinfeld included, Louis C.K. of all people, and another comedian. I don't know he's a white guy. They're all white, and Chris Rock was freely using the N word, and they were free. And Chris was telling them, yeah,
It's
you
okay.
can use it. This is okay. And they were, and Louis C.K. I mean, you could tell that it's a word that he is used to using on a regular basis.
Mm.
Um, and how do you get comfortable with that? With especially, here's a man who said, and I thought part of his stuff the other night was really funny, but the man who said at the end, he drops the mic and said that his parents, he raised by parents who told him not to fight in front of white people. Well, my gosh, when I seen the video that Anthony sent, this dude is going all in using the N word and laughing along as these white, especially somebody like Louis C.K. Look him up if you understand why I say especially somebody like Louis C.K.
Yeah.
Just and Seinfeld, to his credit, was not having none of it.
He said he felt very uncomfortable.
Very and you could see he looked very uncomfortable. It's like, no, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And
But that's
they kept going on. We cannot, and that was not a situation where he was doing a stand-up. Even look, I'm uncomfortable when they do it in stand-up. They all do it, right? I'm uncomfortable when they do it in their stand-up act, right? Saying the N-word in their stand-up. But in that setting, where Chris Rock was basically you sitting around having, they wasn't literally having lunch or dinner, but you're sitting around the table having lunch or having dinner, and you and just your white friends. You're the only Negro in there. There it is right there.
Mm.
And he's going on, and it's like nigga, everything. And the other thing I thought about when you talk about Seinfeld, if you remember, his co-star Michael Richards had this great meltdown at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles
Yeah.
that ended his career.
Completely.
Completely ended his career. So Seinfeld was not having any of that.
Yeah.
He had already experienced. I remember he had Michael Richards on a sit down on a show,
Yeah.
and it was so awkward. And Michael Richards trying to apologize. Jerry, you know me better than this. And Jerry, listen, blah, 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 whatever. Jerry, he didn't know what to really say to the man except, I love you, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But this stuff can't happen. I don't care who, you say comedians have I defend comedians' license to say just about anything. I did not have a problem, and I know I'm in the minority. I didn't have a problem with him going in on Jada at the Oscars, right? But I do have a problem with this comedians and this M word,
Yeah,
particularly what we discuss a lot on this program, what we're discussing today,
yeah.
reparations, and this. You can't do it, Barrington.
I agree. I agree. And I don't know any other people who've taken words that are a slur, that are an insult to you, and tried to claiming that you're trying to change it to re-empower it. You
Yes.
know, that's what they say they're doing. I don't know how successful they really are, because for me, you give certain folks an inch and they take 5 miles, and so
You remember when Jesse Jackson was running for president and
yeah,
he used a slur for
he was
Jews
done, and he was
and
done.
he was cooked
Yeah, he was done.
and nobody got behind that.
But the thing that points out to me, Stacy, is the need for Black people in this country to become to coalesce around certain issues, to organize and to work to become politically and economically powerful. And when you are that, then these people won't come at you like that, because if they know that you're going to drop a hammer on them for the things that they do. Like, I mean, folks walk very carefully around Jewish people,
Mm-hmm.
because they know if they say the wrong thing, their ass going to be in a sling.
Yeah. Well, Claudette Perry says, I saw
And
Chris
that's the
Rock's
way.
show last night, and I believe he is still dealing with his pain and embarrassment from the slap. I agree 100%. You can only imagine, she says, what kind of names he's been called and trauma he's been dealing with in respect to that situation. Again, I can't disagree with that at all. What I do disagree with is these comedians and anybody else using the N word the way it's being used, given what we have to endure now. I think that's the last thing we need. I'm not trying to be the moral police or the or censor anybody.
Yeah,
But you know what? Um I just think that we are living in a time. It's a serious time. Greer says
yeah.
that we are on the verge. She feels like it's going to be a lot of violence coming this way, and I can't disagree with that either, because we see how the power, those who are in power
But
want that,
but
and
Stacy,
they're pushing for that.
and Greer, it's not coming. It's already here.
It's here, right?
You that When you look at the statistics for hate crimes, most of which are not reported, racist aggression, racist attacks against Blacks and Jews are 1 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
according to stats for at least the past 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, we've always been at the top of the list.
well, the attack is here. The
Yeah.
attack, the attack has been here, and and these, whatever it is you want to call them, they are being fueled by the rhetoric of politicians.
Yeah. Listen, Power 96
People lead it.
says we are the only race of people that are paid to demand and dehumanize the mean, I guess is what he meant. Demean and dehumanize ourselves. And it's so true. I don't see what you call it, like you said, Jewish people, Jewish community. Seinfeld doesn't get up there and
Asians don't do
start. Right? He doesn't use slurs to describe Jewish people.
Yeah, Asians don't do it. We're the only ones that do it,
Yeah, Asians don't.
and see, that speaks to our trauma.
Yeah, the Greer says she's with Damon Wayans. She wants that Negro to get slapped again. Claudette Perry again says, I personally didn't see the usual Chris Rock and didn't think the show was funny. I was a Chris Rock fan, but didn't appreciate this particular show. I think the problem, just going back to that Chris Rock, I think part of his problem, and I'm not I don't dislike Chris Rock. I don't really follow him. I like some of the movies and stuff, little funny bits or whatever. But I think the problem was, even after a year, and this is why you can never tell somebody how long it should take them to heal or whatever. That's up to each individual.
Yeah,
But I think that the problem was he wasn't ready. He
yeah,
still emotionally and mentally was not ready to address this. And you saw that because his main target was really Jada.
yeah.
Jada didn't slap him. She may have gave her husband that little nod and wink, go get him. But but she didn't slap him, but
But
she was
as Greer points out, he did it in Baltimore, which is her
in her
hometown.
hometown.
That was very intentional. Yeah,
Very intentional. Very intentional. So I
but,
don't think
but
I
you know,
think that part he thought through, but
yeah,
I don't think he thought it all through. I don't think he really has processed it all. Because look, Barrington, that was you or I, we might be feeling the same and doing the same thing, Chris, because as Chris Rock, because the biggest stage other than the Super Bowl is the Oscars, the
Oscar,
biggest stage with the biggest audience. And this was we got to remember too, that was a black production, an all black production.
that production. Questlove was getting the award. He was going to get an award,
Hmm.
right, for Summer of Soul. So Will, with his lack of control, he destroyed the whole thing. In
He
my
destroyed it, and including for himself. I
Yeah,
mean, and then you sitting there, you got Tyler Perry sitting, you got Denzel, and Will was up against Denzel Washington.
yeah.
You got Denzel, the king of all the actors, sitting there.
But the thing, Stacy, you know, I'm not I'm not casting blame on anybody, but you aren't gonna my wife is not gonna get me to come on a show and talk about some dude that she slept with and ask me how I feel about it. That's not happening. That's a
that
conversation.
that now that part was funny when Chris did when
Man,
he said that they all been cheated on, but none of us has been interviewed by the person.
I know.
That was hilarious.
When I saw
And I
that,
tell you what,
that's
he
so
did tell the
ridiculous.
truth about Meghan Markle. Come on now,
Nah,
you didn't know the royal
I
family.
didn't.
Who didn't know the royal family was racist? He said they were the Sugar Hill Gang of racists.
That's true. I when I watched the documentary and she said she never Googled them, I was like, girl, something's wrong with you.
Ah, come
Because
on.
if you're going into that situation, you need to have done the research and the background work.
How much
Yeah.
background did you need to know? Like Chris Rock, they are responsible. They are colonialism.
No,
These
but Stacy, listen, her
who
mother,
doesn't know that?
Megan's mother said she never gave her the talk. So I guess she thought that she was beyond issues that affect
Yeah,
black people.
the royal family finally told her she was black.
Oh yeah, and
They
and that was,
told her she was black, and she was stunned.
but that was always going to be coming. I don't know why she's surprised.
Listen, I guarantee you, and people say no, I don't think. I guarantee you, my man Harry. You remember he was in blackface and had all that stuff going on. That
He
boy
had
going back. At
back,
some point, he
back
going
to
back.
what? Back to what?
He going back to his
No,
royal
he's,
roots.
no, he's not.
He's going back, Barrington. I don't
Because,
care. No.
because
Look, they
we
evicted
can,
him from the
we can
house the other day.
yeah, we can put some money in that. He ain't going back to nothing
He
because
going back.
there's
He
nothing.
gonna realize. Look, He gonna realize she black too,
No,
and he gonna be out. Come
no,
on.
he knew that.
Oh
But the
yeah. Well,
the irony,
he knew it enough to play around. With so many white guys. Let's be real. So many of those British, especially over there, they are infatuated, and why wouldn't they be with black women?
but I don't
Right?
know. You're talking about the British. A lot of them are not
A
just
lot of
British.
them are. Yeah. And so
But
so
listen, he has thrown down the gauntlet, and he
oh
has.
yeah, for now.
There's nothing. No, there's nothing to come back from.
He's going back.
He is where he is.
Let's let a couple of those heirs die, and he realize how
Oh,
close he is to the throne.
nah,
No,
no. He's not gonna. He's not. Listen, William, whatever his son's name, William is next in line. William's
yes.
William's firstborn son. Because Harry's like 11th in line. He ain't never gonna get it.
Yeah, they moved him down too. But David says he says he with you, Barrington. He said, no, I got Harry being more black than her, and he's
Yeah,
all in.
yeah.
Maybe not with her, but he's all in.
He's all in. He can't go back. He can't.
Y'all are something else.
And he's burned a whole bunch of bridges.
Oh yeah. But
So
that's the way you do it though, right? Because I
that's
listen,
the way you got to do it.
I'm kind of like that too. I gotta admit,
You
when I start, and I do more than just burn. I throw some Molotov cocktails on that bridge, and I'm making sure it
have to.
comes down.
Yeah. So let them understand, because listen, if 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 the monarchy was more forward looking,
Hmm.
they could have used Harry and Meghan as a bridge to the reality of the diversity of England. Because
Yeah. Yep.
yo,
Yeah.
I
But hate blinds you to all that's
of
good,
course, of
and
course,
that's why this America
this is
is the way it
America's,
is.
America's in the same place. Listen, as long as the majority of white people in this country continue to enjoy perks, power, and privilege, or the perception of that, nothing's changing.
Yeah.
And the biggest mistake that Dr. King and a lot of his inner circle, I think the biggest mistake they made was assuming that the only way that you can use moral suasion and shame, I guess, to make
Hmm.
white people act right. We see that ain't work. It ain't work.
I love when he starts because you hear all the Jamaican come out. It ain't work.
No, it ain't work because
Wait, you didn't suck your teeth.
oh yeah, okay. You it every time everything that we see in this country illustrates to us the depth of the racism, the it is the racism, the discrimination, the racial animus and hatred is so embedded in
Yeah,
every aspect of this country, in every structure, in every institution.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it's one thing if somebody came to Barrington and said, "Yo, bruh, you got your foot on Stacy's neck, and you need to be trying to find some ways to." And I say, "Okay, my bad. How can we make this right?" These
hmm,
people don't give a goddamn.
yeah,
They don't care.
yeah.
And every day, yeah, I mean, I am constantly amazed that a mm, like Ron DeSantis has been allowed to do what he's doing in Florida, and people are pushing back, but most of the people down there support him.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. And he's taking his clown show on the road.
Oh,
And
but you know the beauty of that?
mhm.
Ass gonna get beaten when he
What?
tries to run for president.
Yeah. Well, when he went to New York trying to bring that rhetoric, they sent them packing quick a couple
They
weeks
did.
ago.
They did.
He's now in South Carolina spreading his Satanism.
But he went to Simi Valley, which is probably the only
Oh
place.
gosh, California.
Well,
Yeah.
Simi Valley is like the most conservative spot in
That's
California.
where that Simi Valley is where those cops who
Yeah,
demolished Rodney King got acquitted.
got acquitted, and that's where they have the Ronald Reagan
Library.
presidential library or whatever.
Mhm.
So they can
Yeah.
go to hell too.
Don't pass go. Go straight.
Hey,
Don't collect.
yeah,
Barrington, Minnesota's House of Representatives passed a bill last month that would create an office of missing and murdered African American women, which they say, will address disparities in missing persons cases. If the bill makes it through the Senate and is signed by the governor, it would create the first office of its kind focused on Black women in the nation. The office stems from the finding of a 12-member task force, which was created through legislation by Democrat State Rep. Ruth Richardson to investigate the causes of violence against Black women and girls and to report on measures that could be taken to reduce the violence. A December 2022 report by the task force stated that despite Black women making up only 7% of the state's population, they make up 40% of domestic violence victims.
yeah,
This is, I have to applaud them for doing this because and David says it will not pass, but you know that Black women and girls who go missing. We've had this story many times. The Black and Missing Foundation's been on the program. Uh, there's no attention given to them
yeah,
usually.
yeah.
The media ignores them. And so, in a lot of cases, does law enforcement. Law enforcement, the first response, as we've learned from Black and Missing and others, that the first response is Well, are they on drugs? Did they run away? Are they with their if it's a female, are they with their boyfriend somewhere? You just don't know about it. And so, they say the first 48 is the most critical. Well, they spend the first 48 telling black parents and black family members that their loved one is probably just went to do drugs or to have sex or something like that.
But my understanding is that most of the times they label these women and girls as runaways, which gives them the out to not
Right.
put any resources to look for them, to find them, and that type of thing.
Well,
I
Natalie
hope
Wilson told us.
it passes. I hope it's more than a report that sits on the shelf. They've allocated money. They said like $1.2 million. So that usually is a way to indicate to us that they're serious about what they're trying to do.
Mhm.
But as I'm sitting here thinking, when you said about 40% victims of domestic violence, that falls on black men.
Oh yeah.
The responsibility to take care of our women falls on black men.
Mhm.
And
Couldn't agree
so
more.
so the thing is what type of social services, what type of programs do we have? Because listen, it's hard to be in a society that tells you, if someone does something you don't like, punch them in the face. If someone pisses you off, kick them. And that is the way that we are socialized. And it's unfortunate that so many of us get caught up in that cycle, and that's the way we treat our women. So
Mhm.
so we have a responsibility in our community to begin to address that reality in terms of how our men treat our women.
Yeah,
And that
and
should be something that we're not even waiting for a legislator or a
mhm.
governor or a state to do. That is stuff that we need to be doing in our community, in
Yeah.
our families, in our networks.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But one of the things, though, to think about here, and what they're talking about there, in Minnesota, not only are black women and girls disproportionately likely to be harmed when they are, their cases are largely met with silence from law enforcement and media outlets. Nationally, Barrington, cases involving black girls and women remain open longer. And an audit of missing persons, for instance, in Chicago, showed that missing black people appeared among the older cases in their database 4 times as much as white or Hispanic people. And
Yeah,
according to the National Crime Information Center stats, 268,884 women in the country were reported missing in 2020. Nearly 100,000 of them were black. It just, whew,
yeah,
everything. We talked earlier about the reparations. This is all intertwined.
it
Everything
is.
is a result
It is.
of of the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, it is. Racism, um, racism, discrimination, all of, and it, as we've been saying, that there's a common thread, a common theme through all of this. And until we go to the root of what these issues are, it's not going to change.
Nope.
It's not going to change. And
Hey,
I applaud anyone who takes the time and effort and uses resources to try to attack this, because we can't sit down and say we ain't going to do nothing. But we also got to realize that there are significant forces who are intent on maintaining the status quo.
absolutely.
So they
A-
talk a good game. Because I think I told you, I did a story for the final call, and I talked to a lady, a woman who is in somewhere down in Newport News, somewhere in that area, and she would go out and rescue women who were sex slaves. And she
mhm,
said that she had to start rolling with her pistol, because judges and police officers and politicians were calling her and saying, "You mess up our business."
mm,
So
mm,
when you think about the type of what's the word? When you think about the pernicious nature of the people who are supposed to be the ones protecting these women, investigating their the harm meted out to them or looking for them, they're the ones who are helping, who are participating in the sex slave trade and stealing women for 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 sex and for labor. So it's hard.
it,
I mean,
it just goes. The
it,
beat goes on.
it gives me a headache, man.
Yeah, the beat goes on. It's unreal. And so those who hear us report on these reparation stories and what's happening with reparations, hey, you got to understand that there is so much to this, so much to this. Um, on an internal note, and actually it's really more of an internal external note. The National Newspaper Publishers Association is requesting from Speaker McCarthy equal access to the 41,000 hours of January 6th Commission footage that was given to Fox News. If you recall, we had Congressman Benny Thompson, who led the January 6th Commission on the program, and he 100% endorsed and urged the Black press to request this as well. Not that we needed the urgent, but in a news release, we want you guys to see. It's on the Business Wire. It's on Twitter. You can go to my Twitter feed, Dr. Chavis's Twitter feed, Black Press Twitter feed. The National Newspaper Publishers Association, the National Trade Association of Black-owned newspapers and media companies throughout the United States urgently requests that Congressman Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, provides the NMPA with copies of the 41,000 hours of security tape footage that was given to Fox News host Tucker Carlson regarding the January 6th Commission. Again, we want you to look at this, but share it because it's important that the Black press has access as well. This is a matter, and I'm going to continue to read from the release. It says, this is a matter of equal access to governmental information for the Black press of America, and specifically referencing the fact that Speaker McCarthy set the precedent by providing the 41,000 hours of footage to Fox News. Now, understand this footage described by Congressman Benny Thompson, he said these were from certain cameras, Barrington, and certain angles, and that the public should never have known about.
Yeah.
It's for the safety. It's a matter of national security. Dr. Benjamin Chavis Jr., Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., our president and CEO, quoted here. He says the U.S. Constitution does not distinguish the freedoms of the press to just white press, mainstream press, or right-wing press. These freedoms are afforded to all media. The Black press is a trusted voice in African American communities and should receive the same equity and access as all other press entities in the U.S. The NMPA has made 2 requests, both of which have gone unanswered by Speaker McCarthy. In an interview on the NMPA's live morning program, Let It Be Known, Congressman Benny Thompson, the Mississippi Democrat who chaired the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol, said there's no reason why Speaker McCarthy should not give the Black press the same access he provided Fox News. Karen Carter Richards, the NMPA's board chair, says we are looking forward to receiving a response, or at the very least, a courtesy acknowledgement from the speaker. The NMPA calls upon Speaker McCarthy to uphold the principles of equal access to government information and provide the 41,000 hours of security tape footage to the NMPA immediately. And for further information, please contact the executive administrator of the NMPA, Ms. Claudette Perry. You can email her at cperry@nmpa.org. So please, folks who are watching this, who agree that the Black press deserves the same access as someone like Fox News, who's not even a news service. Let's be real.
They're not journalists.
They're not journalists.
Nope.
So
I think
go ahead, Barrington.
I think we're gonna have to sue them because
Mhm.
McCarthy's not gonna. I don't think he's gonna respond. And we need to
He hasn't.
remember the backstory. I believe that this is an attempt by the Marjorie Taylor Greens and Matt Gaetzes and all those right-wing insurrectionists. This is the second chapter of the slow-moving coup, because I think that they're going to share this information with their people on the street, so that when they come back, they'll know where places where lawmakers are, and they'll have a complete layout of the Capitol.
Well, here's the thing too with that. And Benny Thompson, Congressman Benny Thompson, made this point, and it's very profound. The fact is, Fox News is involved in a major, major lawsuit that in actuality, the end result with Dominion voting could really destroy that network. Um, and this is at the heart of that lawsuit. And you give them this access.
Well, I don't think that McCarthy's the brightest bulb in the pack.
Well,
And he and
I think he knew what he was doing.
no, he boxed himself into the situation, into the corner, because he had to give these people what they want. In order to get
Yep.
their vote, he had to make these promises.
Bought and paid for.
So he's bought and paid for.
Wow. The
So
Speaker of the House, who is what? Second in line to the presidency?
I think he's third.
Third in line to the
Maybe
presidency?
not third.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Imagine that. A bought and paid for person
he's a
in
clown.
that position.
He's a clown.
Wow.
He's a clown.
Well, again, it goes back to what we talked about earlier, right?
Yeah.
Where this country has been headed for a while. It's there. It's a war, um, and it's all about power.
Yeah.
It's all about power.
All about power. And I mean, the CPAC conference this weekend.
Oh gosh.
That's a roadmap.
Oh gosh. Did you
Roadmap.
did you how many kaopectate shots did you take looking at CPAC this week?
No, well, I look in and look out. I
Oh
I,
God.
I don't punish myself with that foolishness. I don't watch Fox News. Every time that Trump or DeSantis come on TV, I either turn off TV or mute it. I'm not inflicting them on myself. But as a strategic measure, we need to be listening to what the things they're saying, like at CPAP and elsewhere, so we can get a sense of the monster that confronts us.
Yeah, you do. Austin Cooper is watching from the Big Apple. He says McCarthy would have sold his mother, his wife, and children to become speaker, and he proved that, Austin.
Yeah.
He
Only
absolutely
last.
proved that.
Yeah.
But in Power 96 says CPAC is one member short of a KKK meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because last year they bought Viktor Orban, who's the president of Hungary. This year they bought Bolsonaro, who got his butt kicked and had his own, he orchestrated an attempted coup in Brazil as well, and has scurried to Florida in exile. So he's in exile, and so when anybody who is sitting down looking at this, looking at the things that Orange Jesus has done, looking at what DeSantis is doing, looking at what the right wing, so what used to be the right wing fringe is doing, everything is pointing to authoritarianism, and everything, and because Orange Jesus told the support, his rapturous supporters, that he is the retribution. Mm-hmm. So it's all of this is great, and it's real interesting because I'm like, hell, they got everything, they control everything, and yet there's all this grievance and resentment. But as we have said, we need our listeners, viewers, and everyone who's joining us to understand that all of this is rooted in fear of the brown of America. They fear losing control because demographically, their numbers aren't what it needs to be. That's why they're trying to force white women to have children. That's why they're doing all these things to diminish the power of black and brown people. So that's what all this is.
Well, and obviously Donald Trump believes that he is he's convinced that he's untouchable because he's at CPAC and he spewed his election big lie constantly, and the stuff that he was saying was, I mean, the things that were coherent that you could understand. You could see just how far gone this guy really is and how Teflon he believes he is. At the same time, the Department of Justice just filed a brief, 23-page brief. I wrote about it. It's It's on our newswire and should soon hopefully be on blackpressusa.com. But this brief that the DOJ filed is the strongest indication yet that they finally are moving on Donald Trump. We keep hearing that, but this brief is really telling in that they told the district court in DC that this guy, presidents do have immunity for a lot of things, for most things, but in this case, inciting that insurrection, he has no immunity. It wasn't about free speech. It wasn't about his being president addressing the masses in public interest. He incited an insurrection. This is in their 23-page brief. The fact that the Department of Justice is acknowledging in court that he incited, because what they're doing is there's a lawsuit by those officers and the officers' families from the Capitol, and Trump is claiming that he has immunity um, because he was president and
He,
he could do whatever he wanted as president.
he's an ass because immunity ends when you step out of the White House.
Well, see, his argument was that he was still president when he gave the orders for the insurrection.
Whatever. He wants to have his cake and eat it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust the DOJ. And I saw a story the other day that was saying that there's a significant resistance in the FBI and the DOJ to bring charges against him.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. We reported on that as well. And what they were citing, and this was back in October, they were citing the fact that they feared that it would be viewed as politically motivated. And my response to that is like, if you broke the law, you broke the law.
Yeah.
You got enough. Benny Thompson said that it would be a travesty if Trump is not brought up on charges
This
for.
lady said the same thing. I listened to the interview yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's allowed to walk, they can't say nothing to any of us about rule of law and law and order.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right.
Well, Barrington, we appreciate stealing an hour of your morning. But we appreciate more than that. We appreciate our audience and taking an hour of their morning to get them started on this Tuesday morning in March. Spring is on its way.
No, it's not. We're gonna have a big snowstorm before spring comes. Watch and see.
Oh boy, here we go. You have to shut down my enthusiasm quickly.
Oh, you can be enthusiastic with snow. It's fine.
Okay, if you say so. Barrington Salmon, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to Chris Rock him.
Oh, that'd be interesting because I hit back.
You look, I'm like Chris on that. Look, he said, we'll know he can't beat him. I know. Look, I ain't taking no Barrington Salmon slap.
Listen, in the heat of the night when that
white gosh, the best slap in the history of television, hands down, the best slap in the history of television. Whether it was live, whether it was on a film or real, that was in Sidney Poitier. He said that was in his contract. White man slap him, he's slapping him back.
Because they in the script they wanted him to slap him and he didn't slap him back.
Right, and he's like, nope, he getting hit. Sidney Poitier was one of a kind. Yeah. Wow. Well, anyway, thanks. Thank you all. Look, we're gonna have some more for you tomorrow. Trust us. We'll come up with something tomorrow for you too. Thanks for joining. Let it be known. We'll see you then.